I wanted to do a video because I find it insane and frankly offensive to progressives. The fact that all of a sudden you're starting to hear whispers in the media about Oprah. Oh, maybe Oprah should run for president. Oprah Winfrey. Hey, don't get me wrong. I don't have a problem with Oprah. I mean, I was young when Oprah was in her heyday, so I didn't exactly watch Oprah. But, inspiring story, inspiring woman, was a good talk show host. And, I got no problem with Oprah. So this isn't like a thing at Oprah. No problem with Oprah. But here's what I have a problem with. You have people like Chris Matthews on MSNBC, and I'm going to play you a clip in a minute. Chris Matthews of MSNBC, who did everything humanly possible to diminish, to condescend to suppress, to distort, and to attack Bernie Sanders. And by the way, if you haven't watched, I interviewed Levi Sanders, Bernie Sanders' son. That interview is up on TYT Politics. I cut it up into parts because it was a bit long. So I think there's about 5 parts. So if you want to watch that, it's up on TYT Politics. Levi Sanders, let me tell you, interesting guy. Could run, might run. He's an interesting guy. And he and I are going to do another interview next week because there's a lot of issues we didn't get to. Anyway, so, Chris Matthews, CNN, the New York Times, with Bernie Sanders, oh my Lord, he's not even a Democrat. Oh my Lord, but he's a socialist. He's a socialist. They did everything humanly possible to denigrate, diminish, and basically work against Bernie Sanders. And this isn't me, 6 months after the fact, continuing to cry about it, okay? This is much bigger than Bernie Sanders. This is about corporate media works with the Democratic establishment because they don't want the progressive movement to succeed. Because if the progressive movement were to succeed, that means, oh my Lord, CNN, MSNBC's corporate parent, they got to pay more taxes. And their government subsidies, goodbye. And the gravy train is over because Chris Matthews, CNN, the New York Times, they're all part of one circular cocktail circle jerk that I call the corporate media industrial complex. Again, corporate media industrial complex. There's a great book I think it's called This Town. It's by Mark Leibovich. If you never read it, read it. It's called This Town. And it talks about the incestuous relationship between the Acela corridor, which is New York down to D.C., and how they're all basically in one circular jerk together. And it's all about who's climbing up the ladder and who's powerful and who's being seen and who's got status and all this crap. Right, Carolina, this is bigger than Bernie. So I'm not pointing this out because, Bernie got screwed and let's cry about it 25 years after the fact. No. I'm pointing out the blatant contradiction and hypocrisy of these news anchors.
I know politics and every election is about fixing the problem we have. I think Oprah, not that she's a serious candidate because she doesn't want to be probably, is empathy. Right now we have a president who has no empathy for regular people and their problems. He doesn't connect with pain. He doesn't feel the pain of the people he makes fun of. He has no empathy. It's Oprah's strength. I've watched her for decades. She connects with women without whatever their ethnic background, whatever the gender is. She connects with people's real challenges in life. That's what we need right now in this country, a little empathy.
Chris Matthews, who is the authority on empathy, making millions of dollars a year, never leaving his studio in Washington, D.C., he knows empathy. He knows what the working class in America are going through. So he's the authority on empathy, and Chris Matthews is okay with the possibility of Oprah running for president because she's got a lot of empathy. She talks to the people. She was once just a normal woman. And again, if you're coming to this late, I got no problem with Oprah. This is not about Oprah. Love Oprah. Never watched Oprah that much, but nice woman. I thought she was a good talk show host. My mother loved her. No problem. Sharon, yeah, we are covering sessions. Emma just did a great video on it, so go watch it. It's up on youtube.com/TYT Politics. So Let's look at this, okay? You got Chris Matthews and the rest of the chattering class and the corporate media. Bernie Sanders, oh my Lord, Bernie Sanders, he's a socialist. He's not even a Democrat. Oh, Bernie Sanders, he doesn't have any empathy, being that he went out for 40 years fighting for, the downtrodden, the working men and women of America, African Americans, Latinos. He was one of the first politicians to put forth, yes, I'm for gay marriage. But Bernie Sanders, it was never talked about by Chris Matthews or any of these people. He's got empathy at a time we need empathy in America. But Chris Matthews, and it's not just Chris Matthews, by the way. I've seen other people now that this chattering is going on about Oprah running for president, which is laughable on its face. They're saying, she might just be what we need. She understands the people. Well, let me explain the truth. And again, I got no problem with Oprah, but Oprah's a billionaire. So maybe Oprah, a very long time ago, before she became very successful, really could empathize with people and understood the plight of working men and women, white, brown, black, doesn't matter. But she's been a billionaire for a long time. So why is it that Chris Matthews does a segment and is very open and complimentary of Oprah for president? But with Bernie Sanders, did everything humanly possible to diminish him, to discredit him, to deceive about his policies. If you watched during the primary, Chris Matthews interviewed Bernie Sanders at a college, and it was one of the most unnecessarily hostile interviews I've ever seen a journalist do. And of course, I'm very aggressive when I interview politicians, but this was something different than that. This wasn't him being aggressive. This was him trying to become hostile and almost, get Bernie and prove that Bernie is a fraud and all this. Just YouTube it, Chris Matthews, Bernie Sanders college interview. You'll find it. Why this is important is not even about they screwed Bernie, so let's complain about it forever and ever. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Why this is important is it shows you that we don't only have to worry about the Democratic establishment and the fact that they don't want to take the money out of politics. We don't only have to worry about lunatic Republicans like Trump, Sessions, this new EPA administrator who are doing everything humanly possible to erase progress. I didn't even get to Trump's primetime speech the other night because I was moving yesterday. But Trump laughably said, we're going to do everything we can to bolster clean air and water in America. Hours after he signed an executive order rolling back President Obama's regulations for clean water. That's what this president is doing. Meanwhile, the press is, having orgasms over his speech after the fact, saying he became presidential this evening. No mention about how many lies he told, the fact that he's trying to attack clean water and air, among other things. But why this is important is we don't only have to worry about the Democratic establishment. We don't only have to worry about the crazy Republicans. We've got to worry about the media because they are, in fact, essentially no different than the politicians. They are actively working to deceive you. They say one thing out of their breath and do another after the fact. You got Chris Matthews, you got Gayle King, who's like BFFs with Oprah and is a host on CBS This Morning. These same people, unfortunately, do have a very big microphone. Cable news, for better or worse, is still one of the top platforms in all of media. So there's a lot of people who watch them. So a lot of people who are good people but are just, this is their news source, will watch what Chris Matthews is saying during the primary and now and say, oh, well, I watch Chris Matthews and maybe I should take a look at this Oprah Winfrey. She's empathetic. Of course, Chris Matthews isn't going to report on how wealthy she is. Has she really been in touch with communities in the country for the last 20 years? Again, I'm not attacking Oprah. It's not about Oprah. It's not even about whether she runs, because she's probably just letting speculation go for her own ego. She's probably not going to run. But the point is, the double standard and the hypocrisy If Bernie Sanders or a progressive like him would have got a quarter of the coverage that Donald Trump would have gotten, I believe they would have won the Democratic primary. Because Bernie Sanders' policies and progressive policies in general are wildly popular. If you poll progressive policies, if you poll universal health care, if you poll free college tuition, if you poll let's get out of these fucking wars, if you poll progressive positions, they're very popular. But you don't know, the media doesn't actually inform the viewers on what progressive policies are. They just say, but he's a socialist. He's a socialist. And you know what? If Tulsi Gabbard runs, they will try to deceive about her too. If Keith Ellison ran, they will do a smear job on him, just like we saw in the DNC. Meanwhile, if Oprah Winfrey, if there's speculation about Oprah, let's do some puff pieces about her. Why? Because she's a billionaire. And Chris Matthews and the rest of the chattering class in the media, they love them some billionaires. Same thing with Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban, he's the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. He's one of the panelists on that show Shark Tank. I don't know him, but he's a millionaire. I don't have anything against him, but should Mark Cuban be president? Well, you're not going to hear Chris Matthews or any of them saying, oh, well, Mark Cuban, he's a bit of a vulture capitalist. You know, he screwed a lot of workers. No. Mark Cuban is a millionaire, maybe even a billionaire, I don't know. So, oh no, he's a legitimate candidate for president. Let's do segments on Mark Cuban. Let's do segments on Oprah. Let's laud their empathy. Let's laud, the fact that they would be a good, on the surface, challenger to Trump. But when an actual politician who has more qualifications than any of them, Bernie Sanders, was running, when a politician who has been consistent for 40 years was running, when a politician who has at the low, between 10,000 people, and at the high, as much as 40,000 people at rallies, when he's running, he's a socialist. Can't do it. He's a socialist. It's not even hypocrisy. It's not even deception. It's sabotage. That's what that is. They sabotage Bernie Sanders. They sabotage progressives. But if a billionaire or a millionaire or somebody that they see at cocktail parties or somebody that they see at the Christmas parties or somebody that they talk to regularly or they interview, somebody that they're comfortable with, well, they have empathy. This is why the Young Turks and independent media must be the present and future, because it's the only honest media you're going to get. I don't do a lot of, hawking for money, but I am passionate about this. One of the main reasons I got into journalism and wanted to work for the Young Turks is how passionately I am against corporate media. I worked at Fox. I worked at MSNBC. I know how it goes. I know what these people are about. You got Chris Matthews talking about empathy. You think Chris Matthews has actually spent some time on the ground with actual working people longer than 5 minutes in the last 10 years? Come on. Of course not. And cable news takes actual progressives, sucks them in, and spits them out. Chris Hayes, long time ago, actually was pretty progressive. If you read him in The Nation, he was a progressive dude. He gets to MSNBC, puts some makeup on, a fancy suit. Now all he wants to talk about is Russia. As you saw, Susan Sarandon recently, I think, really shamed him. The fact that he's not covering Standing Rock at all. Same thing with Rachel Maddow when she was a host on Air America way back in the day. Very progressive. She was very progressive. Comes to MSNBC, puts on makeup, puts on a nice little suit. Russia, Russia, Russia. And when I interview politicians, I basically fluff their pillow for them. This is what's wrong with the media today. And it's so important. I'm not just ranting for the hell of it, but it's so important that everybody understands this, whether it's young people watching, whether it's older people watching, especially older people watching, because a lot of older people watch cable news. That's their main audience. I mean, Fox, I think their average age is like 68. And CNN is considered young at 58. Not that that means you're an old person, but you're obviously older on the scheme of things. But we cannot let these people get away with sabotaging progressives who are qualified. I'm all for if Bernie Sanders goes on cable news or talks to the New York Times that they are tough on him. But they should be tough on corporate shills as well. It should be equal. I'm not saying give Bernie Sanders a free ride and don't challenge him. But they sabotage Bernie Sanders, and now you see a drip of Oprah coming out and Mark Cuban coming out. Oh yeah, we got it. These are serious candidates. They have empathy. Yeah, you know who else has empathy? My dog Rusty. Isn't he a cutie? My dog Rusty has empathy. And there's us kissing. Rusty has empathy. Should he run for president? Give me a fucking break. So when you hear Chris Matthews talk about Oprah's empathy, understand what it's really about. It's about propping up wealthy millionaires and billionaires so that the powerful will stay in power and nothing will change in this country.